Welcome to the Car Doctor Podcast. My name is John Paul, host of the Car Doctor program, and we have a good one planned for today. We're going to be talking to Ryan Niemiec. He is from Lincoln. He's an interior designer for Lincoln. He's going to tell us about an all-new Lincoln. Well, it's will ever be made? Well, time will tell. But it's an all-new Lincoln show car that was out at Pebble Beach. And also we're going to be talking to Mike Cummings from Garmin about some of the great accessories Garmin has. So first up, we have Ryan Niemiec from Lincoln. And again, Ryan is the chief interior designer at Lincoln. Ryan, Lincoln is unveiling a Lincoln concept car at the 71st annual Pebble Beach Concours. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. We'll be unveiling a concept car. And really what it's about is it's about celebrating our 100-year anniversary, right? And Lincoln's always been a brand about occasion. So this is a perfect opportunity for us to really celebrate with the rest of the world, our future vision of where we want to go, where, EV technology, autonomy is taking luxury. So this is our interpretation or our expression of what luxury mobility be in the future.
And again, Lincoln's always been known for luxury, whether it's, whether you go back to something like Mark II or, the latest Navigator, you get in a Lincoln and it's a luxury vehicle. Tell us something about this new concept car, as far as how that relates to some of the luxury, not the technology, but when you get in it, and how does it express that luxury to the person sitting in it?
Oh, great question. So really, Lincolns have always been about creating a sanctuary within the interior space through materials, technology used in proper ways where it's not overwhelming our clients, so they feel welcomed by it, and the sense of embrace and feeling, being pulled in by the vehicle. This concept, the Model L100, really is about. It's about going that next step. And we've always leaned into the idea of rejuvenation. So you go to the vehicle to escape from. I think this vehicle really is an opportunity to escape to something. Changing mindset. We use technology in a new way where we allow our clients to be immersed in an experience from sight, sound, scent. We're using a digital floor. We're using new recycled materials, rethinking what luxury materials are, because, we want to continue to explore what that means. We also have a configurable seating situation where it allows the clients to either indulge for themselves and really escape, really embracing the idea of a romance of travel, or to have a social situation where they're connecting with one another. And honestly, in my mind, if anything, that can really shape a customer's experience is the way they connect with other people.
And you talk about vehicle autonomy as part of this, and there are times that I don't want to do anything but drive, and then there's times that the only thing I don't want to do is I just don't want to drive anymore. And how does this concept, and again, it is a concept car, how does this concept allow the person in the car, or let me rephrase that, is there a way that allows the driver of the car to both drive but also kind of escape from reality and just sit in the car?
No, perfect. And it does actually both those things. So as a concept, we are leaning into our autonomous technology. So hopefully at one point you can, the goal is you say, I want to go here, and the vehicle will take you there. But there's a few situations where, you may want to have that engagement. And we've rethought through the dynamic of driving and a new interpretation of it. And what we actually have created, we called it the chessboard, but it allowed us, and we have a chess piece. And so you're presented almost in a tabletop fashion, a map of where you may be going, an indication of the road of where you are with surrounding vehicles. And we have a chess piece, which is actually inspired by one of our designers, Nir Segal, who was watching one of his kids play with a toy vehicle. And instantly he's like, you know what, if I'm going to control a vehicle, I want it to be so intuitive a kid could do it. And it sparked creativity for the team. So it's almost this chess piece that allows you to move through life. It allows you to overtake vehicles. It allows you to put that last 100 feet of an autonomous vehicle. So you may want to arrive a certain way or park a certain way. The vehicle configuration also goes into, let's call it a drive mode, where all four passengers are facing forward. The chest piece itself can then engage into let's call it a control unit that allows you to control the vehicle with the assistance of the autonomous technology, but really have that ability to manipulate and guide the vehicle in the way you want to do it. But it takes away the stress and the let's call it the anxiety of driving in some instances.
Yeah, if I'm from the Boston area, and yeah, there's a fair amount of anxiety sometimes going in and out of Boston. So, I mean, it is a concept vehicle, and concept vehicles sometimes can be something that seems like a pre-production vehicle, but in most cases, concept vehicles, pieces of those vehicles end up in the lineup. Is this going to be the case with this new Lincoln?
This Lincoln particularly is a far vision of our future, but it doesn't mean that we don't get feedback from customers and from people as they see the vehicle and what gets them excited and what really engages them. Concepts are a great way for design engineering to feel out certain areas, to see if they work, to try them out, to show them to a broader audience. On the design side, we love to explore our shapes and our forms and the materials, like I was saying, and what those could do. And this gives us an opportunity to kind of set that North Star and then help feed back ideas, form languages back into production. So is it a verbatim? Maybe not, but it allows us to really influence the world, our current vehicles and our future near-term future vehicles.
When this car is shown at Pebble Beach and you're sort of standing in the background watching what people think about it, what goes on in your head?
Well, I mean, it's a little excitement, right? This is something that as a team we've worked on for quite a long time. Yeah. So we're trying to put our best foot forward, and we really, I'm hoping that people have that sense of awe from it. It really is it's an alluring, beautiful vehicle. I would love if they feel that they connect to the way we're thinking about what mobility could be in the future. And, I hope in general, I think it's just a desire for a little bit of excitement and connection to it.
Well said. I want to thank you for taking a little time out of your day and joining us, and best of luck at Pebble Beach.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the time.
And now up, Mike Cummings from Garmin is going to tell us about some of the great accessories that Garmin has to help keep you safe in your car. Well, a lot of people think about navigation systems, whether they're kind that are built into their car or their phone, and some people even think that navigation systems, maybe portable satellite navigation systems, have outlived their usefulness. But as someone who this past year drove from the Boston area down to the Fort Myers area and back, I found having a dedicated navigation unit was well worth it, both for the visibility and the idea that I could keep my phone sort of separated from my navigation unit. And with us is Mike Cummings from Garmin, and I think Garmin is certainly one of the best known companies when it comes to navigation. Mike, thanks for joining us on the Car Doctor program.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So navigation units, they to me seem as popular as ever. Is that actually the case?
Yeah, I think so. And it's funny you mentioned that, because we get that question a lot at Garmin. People saying, well, I can just use my cell phone, but there's a lot of reasons that GPS navigation is superior if you're trying to find your way, especially if you're in a different city or a different area than maybe you're used to driving. One of the main things is the GPS navigation. That's what it's designed for. It's designed to help you find your way, where a cell phone, kind of a Swiss Army knife, where it can do a lot of things pretty well, but not, it's not specializing in that one thing. And also, like you mentioned, when you're on a long road trip like that, your cell phone coverage kind of comes and goes in different places depending on where you are. And your GPS, you're always going to have coverage. I know for drivers, we have the Drive Smart and just put out the Drive Cam a couple of weeks ago. We also have the Tread series that is all about off-roading and things like that. And so the coverage for that is incredible in rural areas. And then also the RV series that we have is really meant for kind of rural areas and campsites and places like that. So you're always going to have much better coverage with a satellite navigation as compared to using your cell phone. And the other thing too is just the data usage. Anytime you use the GPS on your phone, unless you have unlimited data, you're going to get charged quite a bit for it. So, I think just in the long run, you're better off having a GPS navigator compared to your phone.
Yeah, I think so as well. And the other part of it is that my phone tends to wash out in bright sunlight, and the
Sure.
navigation unit doesn't do that. And it's a bigger display. It's an easier to read display, and I kind of tuck it down in the bottom of windshield, just sort of resting on top of the dash, so I get a good visual look at it without it being too distracting, or falling out of a cell phone holder, for instance. So I find that overall the benefits there for using a navigation unit. And you mentioned something about drive cams as well. That was something I never really thought of till a few years ago, and I think anybody who's ever been on YouTube has seen some of the crazy drive cam footage that people do. But the idea of having a camera in your car, especially doing a 1,500-mile trip, to document anything that could possibly happen. If something did happen, if I got into a crash, the idea of being able to document that, I think, is very handy for insurance purposes. And you guys have quite a variety of drive cameras now too, right?
Yeah, oh, for sure. And you're right. That's something that probably in the last 4 or 5 years has become just such a necessary thing. And you think about the number of people that drive for a living. You're not just talking about over the road truckers or people that are hauling stuff. The industry of rideshare has really taken off here in the last 5-10 years. And so being able to document anything that happens, whether it be on the road in front of you or when your car's parked, or even in drive cam, we have a dash cam tandem unit that we put out here late last year. Not only record what's in front of you, but also your passengers. So, just peace of mind for that.
Yeah. No, peace of mind for them as well. If you're getting into an Uber or Lyft and you see a dash cam kind of aimed back at the back seat, there's going to be a record of everything that goes on inside the car in case something did happen. So it makes a whole lot of sense for that. And I've noticed, my day job is I work for AAA, and I've even noticed some of our towing companies now are putting dash cams in both in the cab and aimed sort of out the window in both directions, just in case something should happen with the vehicle that's being towed, or again, if something happens on the road, they have good documentation of it, so they know what's going on. So dash cams, which seemed like kind of a weird thing, 10 years ago, to me sounds like they make a lot of sense. And 10 years ago, they were pretty good size. I think the one that's in my car now is maybe it's an inch by 2 inches, maybe it's that big. Yeah, so they're really small and really handy.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have the dash cam mini, which came out in January, and that, like you said, that one I believe is about an inch by maybe an inch and a half or so, and you tuck it up the top of your windshield and you don't even notice that it's there. But at the same time, in the back of your mind, you have something recording just in case something does happen on the road. There's an accident or something like that, and you think of the horror stories of people that have been sued for different things, and you have a witness now to say, no, this is actually what happened. And having video evidence in any kind of a trial situation like that is just huge. Because otherwise you have one view of what happened, the other driver or other person on the road or whatever has a different view, and you're just hopeful that they believe what you're saying. But to have video evidence of it is incredibly huge. So
no, it makes sense, because especially in something that's maybe a side swipe or near head-on collision, where who was the person who actually crossed the yellow line. And if you have video documentation of that, and they said you crossed the yellow line, and you said no, you crossed the yellow line, you're able to prove it. Now all of a sudden you went from an at-fault crash to one that is not your fault, and you can get your car repaired, hopefully. So this all came about because one of my listeners said, what kind of automotive electronic gadgets can people get for their cars? And my first thought was, yeah, navigation units, dash cams, but there's also kind of kind of other things that you can get, whether they're wireless backup cameras now.
Yeah.
You guys have all kinds of automotive, and I don't want to call them novelties, but useful automotive electronics that people can put in their cars, and the installation is getting way easier these days, right?
Oh yes, yes, and that's something that we put out a new series of backup cameras back in June, BC50, and that kind of maybe has a different use than a dash cam. Dash cam is more about recording incidents and stuff. You still get that with a backup camera, but then also backing up, and you don't have a great view if you have a navigator with that. In a lot of cars, I know that's becoming more standard, but if you have an older model or something like that, or you have a bigger vehicle, a bigger truck, or an SUV, or even like a camper or something like that, having a backup camera is such a huge thing when you're trying to maneuver into a tight area, or driving in a city or something like that, where you maybe don't have a lot of room to maneuver. So that's big. Something that maybe isn't necessarily for an everyday driver, but we put out headphones under the diesel series, which are really made for truckers, but they work with any of our navigators. So you have that direct line of communication where you don't have to be typing in what location do I want to go to, or it's talking to you right in your ear, and then you're also able to give it voice commands and connect it to your cell phone. So, if you want to do hands-free calling, you have that option too, without having to mess with your phone while you're driving.
That's a really good point. And you mentioned the backup cameras. You guys sent me one to try out, and I don't back up a trailer well at all.
Sure.
I'm a real novice at it, but I want to be able to see on, sort of on the other side of the trailer. So the idea that I could actually mount this sort of almost at the end of the trailer, so I could really see backing up, rather than just sort of guess where the rear wheels were going to end up, and the trailer just kind of makes backing up a lot easier. And you even have a wireless version of a backup camera now, that there's no
Yes.
physical wired connection to the navigation display, right?
Right. And I believe it's 50 feet of coverage. It will connect to it does have a wire connection, but then that sends out a signal that covers you for 50 feet. So,
Yeah.
No matter the size of your vehicle, 50 feet, you're going to be pretty well covered. But yeah, it's amazing just how technology has advanced from, the first generation of those to where it is now.
It really is. And Garmin is one of those companies, and we'll get back to voice command in a minute, because I was fascinated that, something so small and simple as voice command. But, anybody, I think, who's ever been in a smaller airplane, or maybe in a larger boat, you're going to see Garmin products.
Yes.
They're in fact, they're sort of headline when, somebody has a boat or a plane for sale, and it'll say, Garmin navigation this or Garmin this. So, you guys are in all kinds of transportation related businesses. In fact, I have a handheld Garmin unit that, again, I'm not good backing up a trailer, and I'm probably even worse in a boat. But I bought a little handheld navigation unit just so I could kind of keep track of where I'm going and keep track of speed. And what's nice about it is, kind of back to the reason my phone doesn't work well for that. It doesn't wash out in the sun. In fact, it likes bright sun better than being in the shade. It works really well for that. And the idea that you guys have adapted to the latest technology with voice command systems, where you can go, hey, Garmin, do this, and the unit responds. I was pretty amazed with that, especially with the dash cam. That I'm a car guy, so if I see an interesting car by the side of the road, I'll tell Garmin to take a picture of it.
Yeah. Well, and it's amazing too. I just started working for Garmin here about 3 months ago, and just the number of places that you see where, we have navigation or we have coverage or we have, even sponsorship or things like that is just, it's pretty incredible. About a month ago, my fiance and I went on vacation in Chicago, and we did one of the boat tours. And sure enough, we sit down and look up, and there's a big Garmin sign on there saying this boat is, navigates by a Garmin system. So we do a marketing meeting too once a month, and just the diversity of the company, because not only marine and aviation and automotive like we talked about, but we have one of the things that we're really popular for are the fitness watches, and the different athletes that use Garmin products, and even just outdoorsmen too, or outdoors people I should say, hunters, fishermen, and people like that find their way with the Garmin. Is we pretty much run the spectrum with different interests and stuff throughout the world.
Yeah, and some of your units are pretty tricky, where you're looking at the navigation, and it sort of like, it says, okay, turn right, and there's all of a sudden an arrow appears on the screen that tells you to, oh, this is the intersection you need to turn. Some of your portable units are certainly more sophisticated than some of the units I've seen in brand new cars.
Oh, sure. And even just like having the directions. I have a Drive Smart in my car, and it'll say like at the second light, beyond the post office or something like that. Right. So it gives you actual directions rather than in 200 feet turn, which is kind of, I guess, what we're used to with the Apple Maps or with the Google Maps or whatever. So just having that extra, direction or whatever is important too.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing, we have to talk about with navigation is updating, and and kind of based on a Department of Transportation mandate, a lot of exit numbers are being, they're all being changed to match mile marker numbers. And how is Garmin handling doing some of those updates so people's navigation systems are sort of up to date, or as far as updating goes, as roadways change?
Yeah. So in real time, when there's construction and things like that, if you are connected to your phone, your navigation is going to be able to tell you like, hey, there's, heavy traffic here, or there's a different exit, or an exit's closed or whatever. So, for that, which I guess is smaller. For, the bigger scale ones, we offer updates throughout the year. It's probably once every 3 or 4 months, I'd say. Most of the maps you can download a newer version of, and of course that's all free. If you go to Garmin Express, and it services basically all of our products, even if you have an older, I had a Nuvi actually when I first moved to Kansas City, really dating myself, but, I can still update that and get maps for that and everything. So you buy the unit once, and for most cases, you're not paying a subscription fee or anything, unless you're really getting into specialized stuff. So but for a everyday driver, you don't have to worry about that.
No, it makes a lot of sense, and to be able to stay up on it and be able to be visible. And also, finally, before I let you go, one of the things that, somebody came to me once and they said they were a very nervous driver. They were always afraid of getting lost. And, and somebody else wrote to me and said, what can I get a new driver? And I suggested a navigation unit. And some people said, oh, well, you're putting something in somebody's car that's going to cause a distraction. And I responded back, no, it's actually the idea of having that kind of calm voice guiding you to where you want to go can actually minimize distractions and make you a safer driver.
Yeah. And I'm at the age where I have a lot of friends that are, their kids are, becoming teenagers and becoming new drivers and everything. And, you think about trying to drive, and granted, I had a different experience because I grew up in a smaller town, but you think about driving in a big city if you're 15, 16 years old, and just how intimidating that is. But if you have a navigation system in the car with you, it's going to tell you, and you make a wrong turn or whatever, it takes a couple of seconds to find the satellite. It'll tell you how to get out of there and get back to where you want to go. And I think as a parent, it gives you peace of mind to, to know that your kid's not going to get lost with a navigation system like that.
Yeah, to me, navigation can really help people who get a little bit confused, who can't always find exactly where they want to be, and it just, to me, it makes sense. And again, the idea that you're not using cell phone data, you're not
Right.
having to worry about that. And I found that, and you pointed it out, that there are places that are just dead zones for cell phones, but
Mhm.
GPS is generally going to work, just about any place except inside a tunnel, maybe.
Right, yeah. Where you're not getting satellite coverage, yeah,
Right.
and more than likely there you're not going to get a cell phone signal either. So yeah, there's always going to be a couple spots that are troublesome, but you're going to have much better coverage overall with the GPS compared to a cell phone.
Yeah, it really, I think, just for people that are looking for kind of a way to be able to get around to do things like this. But are there also navigation units that are specifically designed for truck drivers?
Yes. So and that's one of the things I think that people don't realize is just, we specialize a lot of our navigation units to, we have one for truck drivers, which is our diesel series. We have one specifically for if you have an RV or a camper or something like that, the RV series. We have the tread series, which is for, more off-road kind
Yep.
of side-by-side vehicles and stuff like that. And then we also have the Zumo series, which it kind of specializes for motorcycles. So, and each, navigation system is similar, but they have different features that, kind of cater towards those type of drivers.
Well, living in the Boston area, I just want to remind people that, and truck drivers know this, although having a truck kind of based navigation unit, there's a road called Storrow Drive, and
Mhm.
this is the time of year where U-Haul trucks get jammed up in Storrow Drive because they try to make it under the bridges and they just don't fit. So,
Right.
even though your navigation system may want to point you down Storrow Drive, read the signs that tell you about the height limitations. So,
Yes.
or for truck drivers, get the truck map-based navigation units. You're going to be a lot better because of it. So I
Right.
know the idea of reading paper maps is almost kind of a lost art with navigation units. And I don't know the last time I opened up a paper map, and
Yeah.
I can literally get them by the case. So the idea of having navigation makes a whole lot of sense to me. Hey, Mike, I want to thank you for taking a little time out of your day and joining us on the Car Doctor program.
Thanks for having me, John.
Before we let you go, one more thing. How do people
Yeah.
find out more about Garmin? Where do they go?
I'd say go to our website, Garmin.com. We have all of our products right there, sorted by category. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, we have a blog and a newsroom and just different videos and things like that to watch everything in use. So yeah, Garmin.com is your one stop for everything.
Garmin.com. Mike, thanks for taking a little time out of your day. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, John.
Well, that's all for now. Remember, tune into the Car Doctor radio program live every Sunday morning at 11 o'clock on WATD. If you want to listen online, it's 95.9 WATD. And until next time, make sure you wear your seatbelt, be good to your car, drive safely, and if you see an emergency vehicle by the side of the road, slow down or move over. It saves lives.